I am Agent Baron Haynes, FBI, badge number 58234. I am accompanied by Agent Yi Hampton, FBI, badge number 91711. During a routine state prison inspection from the Department of Corrections, 3 prisoners were found dead in one of the central booking cells. The cameras in the holding cell were not working and seemed to have been tampered with. The prisoners found dead were Tito El Wambino, age 32, charged with possession; Frederick Little, age 50, charged with escaping from felony custody; Cletus Phillips, age 34, charged with soliciting prostitution and violating parole. Only one prisoner, Angus McClout, age 25, charged with obstruction of justice, was found alive. Angus McClout seemed to be in a manic state, covered in blood, especially in his mouth area, and would only rock back and forth, cackling and shouting something about Arabian Damien, along with incoherent shouting accompanied by Arabic. Agent Yue Hampton is fluent in Arabic and reports that his Arabic is improper and just as incoherent as his English at the moment. The now pronounced dead Frederick Little had a journal with him when he was found. It was mentioned in his medical files as a method of dealing with his situation, which was prescribed by the prison psychologist. To be able to read it and possibly get some answers to the incident that took place, we needed a warrant to access it, since it was technically protected under the Federal Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act of 1996 HIPAA. We have just obtained a warrant from the Honorable Judge Jody Filton, so I will now begin to read and document, which is hopefully what we will use to uncover what took place. We also hope to get as much information as possible on the Machete Boys cartel and build a persons of interest database.
I'm Freddie Little, inmate number 0313 at Lum County Penitentiary. My counselor told me it would be a good idea to start a journal to get through my current situation. She added it to my medical file so it will be protected by HIPAA laws. That means nobody can take it from me no matter what. It'd be nice to have something that's really mine in this place for once. She said it'd be a good way to get out my emotions in a way that won't result in what happened last week. Last week, I bashed my cellie's head in so hard he still hasn't woken up. Plus, I raped him in the ass to assert dominance, his unconscious body being propped up on my cock like a scarecrow, and flailed around like the dead guy from Weekend at Bernie's, but they don't know that part. Honestly, it's not my fault. I told him no bathroom breaks while I'm making toilet wine. Nonetheless, I'm going to be transferred to the DPP tomorrow, the Devil's Play Pen, as they call it, where anything goes. It's basically where they put all the violent criminals and other criminals that they just gave up on. They would just send us to the state or federal prisons. They tried doing that before, but the state and federal prisons don't want us. Nobody wants to deal with the Lum. October 1st, 2017. I heard the voice of the CO as I woke up, echoing against the concrete walls. Get up, Frederick. Time to see your brand new dream home. I don't remember this CO's name, 'cause he's new. It sure didn't take him long to become a sarcastic cunt. He puts the cuffs and shackles on, and we head to my new area, the DPP. We approached the hall where he handed me off to some guy in a button-up shirt and slacks at the beginning of the hall. I asked him, "So who are you?" He replied, "Travis Marks. I'm the guy running the show at the Devil's Play Pen." I was a little shocked that someone in a formal position like himself would refer to the DPP by its informal name. Upon closer inspection, he had a type of rugged and unkempt look, although he was dressed formally. He also smelled like liquor and carrots. What a weird combination. "So what are you in for, Fred?" he asked. I told him my story, so there I was on my porch, shooting cats with my crossbow as I normally did, when I seen my annoying neighbor Gertrude. Her cat had been pissing on my porch, and I told her I'd make a hat out of him if I seen him. Well, she had a look of panic on her face. That's when I realized I had a clear shot of that orange bastard. She was running towards him, trying to get him before I could. Challenge accepted. I aimed and shot right at him. Perfect shot. Well, I thought it was perfect. I accidentally shot that old bitch right in the chest. Her teeth fell out as she fell backwards and thumped onto the ground. It was the funniest shit I ever saw. Well, it was, until she died at the hospital and told them who did it before croaking. Fucking cunt. I told them I was aiming for her cat, but they wouldn't listen. They said the cat peeing on the porch was enough to give intent to the case and charge me with first degree. Well, ha, that's funny as fuck, Travis replied. I remember my first time taking a life. It was so good I just kept doing it. A little alarmed at his response, I asked what he meant by that, and he pulled from his pocket a Polaroid photo. I looked at the photo and couldn't believe my eyes. It was a photo of himself in a military uniform, holding a human face. His expression was like that of a 4-year-old showing a picture he painted, smiling ear to ear. At the bottom of the picture was Arabian Damien, written in marker. "Who is Arabian Damien?" I asked. Travis replied, "The two-timing little sand nigger I killed." We both laughed hysterically. "You know, I could use someone like you," said Travis. "I need someone on the inside who can keep the other inmates at the DPP in line." I asked him, "Well, how do I go about that?" "What needs to be done?" He replied by pointing me to his office. "Have a seat. I'll tell you all about it." I sat down and saw him reach into his desk, his hand shaking. He pulled out 2 clear, crystal-like glasses and a cheap bottle of scotch. He handed me one and gulped down the other in 2 gulps with no hesitation. "So there are 3 gangs in the Devil's Play, Penn," he said, leaning in, his eyes wide, the Machete Boys. "They're a cartel based in Mexico City with a branch here in Lum County. They got 1 leader on the inside and 1 leader on the outside. The leader here on the inside is named Josh Goganes. The Sinful Hillbillies, MC. They only have 1 leader, who just so happens to be on the inside. His name is Darrell Brownstone. And the Crackhead Juggalo Syndicate. Their leader is Cletus Phillips. He's also in the DPP. Cletus has been good lately. The Crackhead Juggalo Syndicate is only selling drugs in the DPP and not letting them get out as far as I know. I need you to make sure it stays like that. Get friendly with Cletus and keep an eye on him for me. As far as Josh and Darrell, they've been taking gang wars on the outside into the prison and having gang fights in the DPP. I can't personally lay hands on them or I lose my job. That's where you come in." "So you want me to beat up Josh and Darrell for you?" I replied. Travis looked at me with wide eyes, an almost manic look on his face, then shouted, "I want you to do more than that. I need you to let them know who is in charge. I want you to assert dominance. In exchange, you'll get special treatment and get to do whatever you want." "Sounds like a sweet deal to me." "I'll do it." He stood up, swiftly, as if standing at attention, and unzipped his pants. "Get on your knees, boy," he ordered in a stern, monotone manner. I got on my knees and opened my mouth, smiled like a donut. "You don't need to smile like a donut, boy," he shouted. "Whoa, what do you need?" I asked nervously. Travis said sternly, "I need you to pet it. Kiss it, call it pretty, and acknowledge who's in charge here." Yes, sir," I replied. I know when to kiss the ring. I started petting his limp penis, which was delicately plopped on my hand. It had its own little heartbeat, which got a little stronger with every stroke. I then puckered up and gave it a long wet peck on the tip, similar to a mom kissing her child on the forehead. I felt it pulsate against my lips. "You happy, big guy?" I said, smiling at him, my head still in the same spot, my eyes looking up at him. "Yeah, slugger, that'll do for the day. That door with the wired glass leads to the DDP block. You can excuse yourself, boy." I walked through the door and seen a large, dimly lit concrete room with many bunk beds. The words, "Arabian Damien," written on the wall in blood or red paint of some sort. Everyone was all divided into their 3 groups in different corners, just as Travis Marks said they would be. I picked a cot that wasn't fucked with and slept off that cup of scotch. October 2nd, 2017. It's my first lunchtime at the Devil's Playpen. They don't let us into the cafeteria. They make us eat lunch in the DPP, excluded from the other inmates. They say we're too high risk. I seen Darryl leading by his gang, the Sinful Hillbillies MC. He was watching a game of cards. I took my food off of my tray and laid it onto and placed it onto 3 pieces of notebook paper, placed neatly under my cot. I'm going to use my tray. I approached him and said calmly, "This is from Travis Marks." I then whacked him in the head. His fist balled. He was ready to punch, but I just kept whacking him too fast. He couldn't even see right. He fell and I just kept going. I then proceeded to stomp him out. Travis looked through the wired window of his office and gave me a thumbs up. His gang all stood up as if they were going to jump me, but then sat back down as Travis approached with a glass of scotch in his hand. He handed me the cup. "Good job, boy," he said with a smirk on his face. October 3rd, 2017. It's my first shower time in the DDP. I see the lanky wannabe that's running the Machete Boys cartel from the inside. He's washing his ass, completely oblivious to what's about to happen to him. The water's running through his long hair, looking up at the shower head, not a care in the world. He jumped as I shouted, "Hey, Goganes!" This is a message brought to you by Travis Marks. I yanked him out of the shower by his waist. His arms lunge outward, grabbing the sides of the shower, but slipping off. He thuds face first onto the ground, a slapping noise echoing off the white tiles. Small water droplets flew through the air like wet confetti. With his arms catching him only slightly, I smack my hand down onto his upper back, locking him in place, like a falcon holding down a helpless baby penguin. My penis was erect from power. I jammed it right into his anus, like a mighty punch jumping into his bussy. "Why?" he shouted as I ravaged his little ass, going up and down like a seesaw on his ass. The friction burning my cock hurt a little, but I kept getting drunk with power every time my hips hit against his soft little ass. It felt so good I could have rearranged his guts all day. I cummed in his manhole. A wave of pleasure washed over me as I was basking in the glory of what I'd done, like a proud lion after a successful hunt, still with my dipstick in the oil. Travis walked in, a clipboard in his hand. "Good job, Freddie. Can you step into my office for a second?" He handed me a Semper Fi Marine Corps beach towel that appeared like he brought it from home. With the towel around my waist, I walked with him to his office. He handed me a cup of scotch filled to the brim. As he drank straight from the bottle, his face looked concerned. "We have a new transfer tomorrow. He's not gang-affiliated, but he's real trouble." I looked at him a little bewildered. "Well, who is it?" I asked. "You heard about that guy that was going around killing bikers from the Sinful Hillbillies MC, went on a big rampage, and even stole a monkey from the zoo?" My jaw dropped. "Of course I've heard of that guy," I said without hesitation. "Well, they didn't find the stolen monkey, but they caught that guy. His name is England Huddle. He's in booking right now, and they're sending him directly my way." He took another swig from his scotch bottle. "I need you to assert dominance on him immediately. Let him know we run shit, and not him." I hesitated a little. "Okay, I'll do it." I nodded my head. Travis let out a sigh of relief as he leaned back in his chair. October 4th, 2017. They brought in the new guy. He's a tall drink of water. He had a Hoggy Davidson bandana on his head and a menacing stare on him. I approached him and asked him, "Hey, so I heard why you're in here, and I just got one question." "What?" he said in a monotone yet ominous way, beaming at me with squinted eyes. "What did you do with the monkey?" I asked eagerly. He looked around before responding. "I trained it how to shoot a gun. I'm not the only one who shot up the Sinful Hillbillies motorcycle clubhouse." My jaw dropped. How did you get the monkey to obey your commands?" He smiled really big and blushed a little. "Well, when it didn't listen, I fucked the shit out of his little monkey butthole until he obeyed me. Usually I just used my thumb so I wouldn't hurt the poor little guy, but sometimes he really needed to be punished." I was shocked and a little horrified. I just kinda walked away. I was waiting until shower time to do what I do best. Shower time finally came, and I was ready. I approached England. "Spread 'em, boy," I shouted with a bar of soap in my hand. I was going to jam the bar of soap up his anus. My dick is pretty big, but I figured the soap would be a wider, tighter fit, and then I'd push it in further with my cock. He'd be farting bubbles for a week. It was the perfect plan, until it wasn't. He said, "That's not how it's going to work around here. I don't give a fuck if you drop the soap. I'll pry from your hand and make you drop it." My jaw dropped and my eyes popped out. "What?" He slapped the soap out of my hand. "Looks like you dropped it," he said smugly as he pushed me and made me slip. As I was struggling on the wet ground, he grabbed my hands with his and pinned me on the floor. "Ah!" I shouted. Nobody helped. "Get it out, get it out, get it out." My anus felt like the Grinch's heart. It grew 3 sizes. "Get it out, it's too big," I shouted. My soul felt like it was leaving my body. I could feel warm blood trickling down my right ass cheek. He kept pounding my ass for what felt like eternity. Every stroke inward felt like a rod of sandpaper with veins. I felt helpless. "Call me Daddy," he shouted. Yes, Daddy," I responded in a shaky voice. I was lightheaded. I felt a warm burst of liquid inside me. He pulled out, looking relaxed. He said, "You're my bitch now. Put this bandana on." I took the bandana and put it on my head with a well of tears around my eyes. October 5th, 2017. I'm resting because of my recent anal injury. It really itches and hurts. I'm going to get friendly with Cletus Phillips today. If I can't dominate England, I can at least stick to my other initiatives. So, Cletus, I don't believe we've talked yet. He looked very calm, probably a little high. "I can't wait until 2 weeks from now," he said. "What's in 2 weeks?" I asked with an eyebrow raised. He smirked. "Well, I got stuck in this jail for soliciting prostitution." I was hanging out in front of the KFC, offering a 12 again. I looked at him a little bewildered. I thought I had issues. This guy is out there. "That's a non-violent crime. Why are you in the Devil's Playpen?" I asked. He had a look of guilt on his face. "Yo, at Cell Block A." I nodded my head. "Well, I got me some fried chicken at the commissary, and, well, you can probably guess what I did." I was actually speechless. I walked away. I heard a familiar voice ring through the air. "There's m-" I felt a hand slap my ass and grab it. It was England. "Oh, no." Travis Marks walked in. He looked at everyone and announced, "All right, everyone, stop doing whatever it is you jailbirds do for a moment. We have a motivational speaker here from St. Santa Maria's Catholic Church. He's here to make a motivational speech. He's also going to be opening a small prison chapel for more motivational jailbird BS in the empty room right next to the DPP. So listen to what this fine gentleman, Father Alfred Krieger, has to say." A man in a stereotypical Catholic priest outfit, white collar and all, stood before us. His face looked messed up. He kinda smiled like the centipede from the movie James and the Giant Peach. He had a tattoo of what looked like a scorpion on his throat. He definitely didn't look like a regular priest, despite the outfit. "My brothers in God." His voice ringing off the concrete walls proudly, he began speaking. "When I first stepped into a cell, I thought it was the end. Chains on my wrists, hate in my heart, and a future carved in concrete. I was a criminal, hard-headed, heartless, violent. I believed in nothing but the streets, and I answered to no one. Then came the night I should have died. A deal gone bad, a gun in my face. The trigger pulled, a bullet tore through my skull, and I lived. Now I'm not going to stand here and lie to you. I didn't wake up in the hospital as a saint. I didn't have angel wings or hear harps. I woke up angry, confused, and half paralyzed in my face. I looked in the mirror and saw a man I didn't even recognize, scarred, broken, and empty. But that pain, that bullet, that was mercy. God didn't kill me. He woke me up. See, some of us need to be broken before we're rebuilt. I was one of those men, and maybe you are too. I started reading the Bible, at first just to pass time, but the words started cutting deeper than the bullets ever did. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. I thought that sounded fucking retarded. But it stuck, because deep down I wanted to be new. I wanted peace. I wanted to feel human again. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy. I had to look in the mirror every day and face what I'd done. I had to cry, confess, and crawl my way back. But with every step God pulled me out of the grave I dug for myself. And now I stand before you, not as a priest who had it easy, but as a man who crawled through hell and made it out breathing. Not because I'm strong, but because God never gave up on me. So let me say this to every man in here who thinks he's too far gone. You're not. I don't care how many people you hurt. I don't care how long your sentence is. I don't care what the world says about you. God still wants you, and He can use your story, not despite your past, but because of it. You've still got time. Time to change, time to lead, time to become the man your younger self needed. Prison might have stopped your body, but it can't cage your soul, unless you let it. So if you hear anything today, hear this. The bullet didn't kill me, but it killed the man I used to be. God gave me a second chance, and He's offering you one too. Don't waste it. Come into my chapel if you ever need anything, or just want to open your heart to the Lord. The whole DPP clapped and cheered. A very touching speech indeed. I get what he meant by looking in the mirror every day to face what you had done. I look in the little shitty plastic prison mirror every day, see my 2 red teardrop tattoos, and face what I've done. October 6th, 2017. My butthole still itches and burns from what England did. I've always been the one doing the rape, because if you take it, that's gay. And I ain't gay. No matter what happened, I ain't gay. This has never happened to me before. My butthole went from a mint condition, garage-kept, never-driven Rolls-Royce, to a 1989 Geo Metro, used and abused, with an oil leak to match. I feel like a shell of my former self. England approached me. He made me a wedding dress out of sheets, tied together with dental floss. "I ain't your wife," I shouted at him. "I'm not all bad," he said with a blush and a grin. "Here, have this." He gave me a cup of prison wine. Think of this as an olive branch. Well, I really wanted to make peace with him so I wouldn't get raped anymore, so I drank it. "Oi, I don't feel so good," I said just before hitting the ground like a bag of bricks. "What did you do?" I shouted. He smirked. "I put neuromuscular blockers as well as some Klonopin for good measure in there." "Now you really can't stop my fun," he said in an ominous killer clown-like voice. I felt like a fallen triceratops, once mighty and a force to be reckoned with, now old, injured, and unable to move, as a tiny velociraptor ravages my body, and I'm able to do nothing about it. Oh, how the mighty fall. He pulled down my pants. The bottom of my legs felt numb, my ears were ringing. I blacked out. I awoke with a now familiar and very intense pain in my bum. I could see England's shadow bouncing up and down. The flickering dim light left a shadow on the concrete wall that seemed to dance along with England's fierce ram-like movements. I was still unable to move. I blacked out again. I woke up on the top bunk, wearing the sheet wedding dress. The back of it felt warm and wet. I touched it. It was blood. October 8th, 2017. Travis called me into his office. He slammed the door. Arabian Damien told me everything. They're throwing contraband in the garbage cans, shouted Travis. He dumped out all the trash in the paper wastebasket onto the floor and began digging through it. Help me find it. His digging got more manic. Arabian Damien, shut up, he yelled while covering his ears. I think he's really lost it. I exited his office and saw Cletus outside the door, laughing hysterically. What's so funny? I asked him. Struggling to hold back laughter, he responded, I convinced him that Arabian Damien possessed me like a demon again. I had him crying earlier. Right, DB? Darrell Brownstone chuckled and sighed, his face still bandaged from the lunch tray incident. He chimed in with, Yeah, classic. I told Travis that Arabian Damien would kill him in his sleep if I didn't get an extra pudding cup at lunch yesterday. We all use his PTSD to fuck with him. Josh Goganes, overhearing our conversation, approached us. A lot of people here really have been possessed by Arabian Damien. It's no laughing matter, Josh said with a face of stone. I personally don't believe any of that BS. Josh is such a tool. Travis is just sick in the head. Travis Marks is not as reliable or stable as I once thought. October 9th, 2017. I know now that Travis Marks can't help me. Maybe God can. I arrived at Krieger's chapel, in between the DPP and the loony bin. It's right next to Travis's office. Very convenient. I told Father Krieger about what all is happening to me. He made me feel a little better by telling me about a story where a guy named Jonah got eaten by a whale, but he was able to weasel his way out of the whale. Jonah was stuck in a whale. I've got England stuck in my asshole. Very similar situation. He also told me a story about how the Egyptians kept Jews as slaves. They weaseled their way out of that one, and now they own Hollywood. I'm England's cum slave for right now, but maybe someday I'll own Hollywood. Although I have sinned, I can still repent and have spiritual Hollywood. Very inspiring. October 10th, 2017. I went to the chapel again today to wash away more of my sins. I saw a familiar face there, one that made me put on this stupid Hoggy Davidson bandana and tore my butthole worse than Abraham tore the Red Sea. It was dang old England. Why are you letting him in here? I asked Father Krieger in a very alarmed manner. Everyone deserves a shot at forgiveness, Father Krieger explained. Jesus was crucified with 2 thieves, and he forgave both of them. England stole your only one anal virginity. If Jesus can forgive 2 thieves, then you can forgive one. He pointed his hand at the wooden bench, gesturing me to sit next to England. I reluctantly obliged. He then looked at the both of us, his half-paralyzed face smiling, looking almost like a snarl. Y'all would probably get along better if you just talked without the raping or fighting. So we're going to play a little game of questions to get to know each other, he said, crossing his arms and looking up as if he was proud of himself for such an idea. Now I'll ask the questions and you both answer them. You'll probably find you have more in common than you thought. First question. What got each of you into the Devil's Playpen at Lum County Prison? I answered, telling about my sinful past of shooting cats with crossbows, wind, as she hit the ground, with a hilarious old lady "ah-gah" sound that seemed to pierce the air. I then told about how I beat my cellie for taking a bathroom break while I was trying to make toilet wine, and I even told about how I raped him while he was knocked unconscious, blood coming from his head. He seemed to wave around like a wacky arm flailing inflatable tube man through the air as the smell of his blood filled the cell and got my heart racing, and small blood droplets from his head trickled about like a drizzle on a peaceful summer afternoon. "Thank you for sharing," said Father Krieger. "It's your turn to share England." England paused a moment, seeming to ponder upon what happened. "Well, it all started when I was in a car crash and suffered severe neurological damage. There was not any conventional FDA-approved way to save me and allow me to live a normal life. There was, however, experimental treatment that the pharmaceutical company was doing that showed promise. My insurance wouldn't cover the treatment. My father, Bob Huddle, didn't have the money, and we don't have any other family. My father reached out to a loan shark from the sinful hillbilly motorcycle gang. I was saved. I was recovering. Then my father fell behind on payments and was shot and killed by a biker in broad daylight, right in front of me. I realized I'm the last Huddle alive. This made me livid. I wanted revenge. I got it. I took my father's Hoggy Davidson motorcycle and started blasting and chopping bikers from the sinful hillbillies all over Lum County. It was a true rampage. I even stole a monkey from the zoo and taught it how to shoot a gun. I then went into the sinful hillbillies' clubhouse with the monkey. Flames filled the sky as I burned it down while the monkey and I fired a cascade of bullets that filled the air like a swarm of angry metal hornets. I'm the last Huddle. My father needed justice. The monkey hasn't been found, but my father's dignity and justice has. He seemed to be shaking, with his eyes watering, as he finished his retelling. I was shocked. I knew how he felt. My father was killed by a cat. Fluffy gave my dad feline AIDS, I said with a cracking voice, and tears running down my face. England's shaking and subtle tears quickly became a waterfall of tears washing down the side of his face. We hugged while sobbing. His warm embrace was one of purity and security that I have not felt in years. I felt like I had little butterflies in my heart. When we stopped hugging, we looked into each other's eyes. England looked at my 2 red teardrop tattoos and then pointed at a tear running down my face. "It's the 3rd teardrop," he said jokingly in an attempt to break the tension in the room. It was the 3rd teardrop. England made me feel something. England made me feel again. I have developed Stockholm Syndrome. October 11th, 2017. Travis Marks and I aren't really talking. He doesn't approve of my new love interest. He says Arabian Damien will take over my body and haunt me if I don't stick to my plan of trying to dominate England. What a tool. كان ينبغي عليك أن تستمع إلى الراء. What the hell? I don't remember writing that. Somebody touched my journal. If I find out who done it, they're getting fucked up. October 12th, 2017. I set up a romantic date for England and I today. Since nobody wants to leave the toilets alone, while I brew my famous prison wine, I made the next best thing. I got 2 fruit punch boxes and I mixed hand sanitizer into them. It's not as good, but it gets the job done without the lengthy brewing time. It will be the wine for our date. I set one of the card tables up with a sheet to look like a tablecloth. I set it under the flickering light bulb. It created the perfect ambient lighting. I had some marinara sauce packets. I put them on the 1 big plate of ramen, which I placed into the middle of the table. I decided on 1 big plate of ramen spaghetti instead of 2. I want a Lady and the Tramp type thing to happen. I want to slurp the noodles with him. After that, I want to slurp his pants noodle with him. I placed my prison-issued radio, which I purchased from the commissary, onto the small window of bars touching the ceiling to get the best signal. It was still staticky, but it was still clear enough. A smooth Italian opera played. The static added to the ambiance. Last but not least, I put on the wedding dress he gave me. It was hard getting the blood stains out, but I want to look good for my man. I saw him get out of the shower. I knew now was my chance. I stood in front of him in my wedding dress, with my finger pointing at my cheek, looking side to side in a naive, flirtatious manner, swaying slightly back and forth to grab his attention. He seemed a little shocked, but after the initial shock, he rubbed his hands together deviously like a fly on the wall, ditty style. "I made us dinner, honey," I said to him in a sultry tone, batting my eyes at him. I grabbed him delicately by the hand and pulled him gently to the table I had set. "Wow, this is some nice shit. Who did this? I know it didn't come from the kitchen. Is that Alfredo on top of the marinara?" "No," I replied. "It's my special sauce." "I'm the dominant one," he exclaimed fiercely, his voice booming through the whole block. "Don't you forget it, boy." "Yes, Daddy," I replied, looking up at the veins throbbing from his forehead. He threw me onto the table and tore off my dress. "I want your fluids. I want your fluids. I want your fluids," I shouted as he pounded my asshole like a robotic dildo with the highest speed possible, and just when I thought he couldn't go any faster, he turned up the speed. It was like Mike Tyson was fisting my asshole. It sounded like macaroni being stirred ferociously. I saw blood squirting everywhere, which I thought was the marinara from dinner. It splashed all over his face like mud on a Jeep Grand Cherokee windshield. He licked it while looking at me smiling. He hit my G-spot, so I pushed into his hips, yelling, "Yes, Daddy!" Travis Marks seen us and told us to knock it off. England pulled his erect hog from my ass and startled me. I felt a cold, hard object inserted into me. He shoved a golf ball into my ass. As Travis Marks walked away, England punched me in the stomach, and the golf ball went flying and hit Travis right in the head. His eyes rolled back and he hit the floor like a sack of potatoes. "Don't ever stand in the way of our love," he shouted. That was the moment I knew. I'm going to marry that man. October 13th, 2017. I fell asleep on the top bunk with England last night. We cuddled and caressed each other all night. I was the little spoon. When Travis Marks woke up from getting knocked out by that golf ball, we told him that Arabian Damien possessed us and made us do it. He believed us. He also believed Cletus when Cletus told him that Arabian Damien drew the picture. October 14th, 2017. My partner, England, and I both went to see Father Krieger. We want to know if our love is a sin in the eyes of the Lord. Father Krieger told us, "The Catholic Church is down with the gays now, more or less. The real problem is that you're having sex outside of marriage." "What do we do, Father Krieger?" England asked, a look of shock on his face. "You need to get married if you wish to continue blessing his anal cavity," said Father Krieger. "Are you ordained? Can you marry us?" I beseeched him. "Of course, my children." England got on one knee with a ring made of toilet paper. "Will you marry me? Will you become Frederick Huddle?" My eyes welled with tears. "Yes, yes," I shouted. Father Krieger pulled out a clipboard. "By the power invested in me, I pronounce you man and man." "Sign here," he said. We happily signed. "I'm a married man. I'm Freddie Huddle." "Looks like I'm not the last Huddle anymore," said England. He then gave me a passionate kiss. "So, what kind of life are you guys planning on building together when you get out of here?" "Well, we are lifers." "We ain't getting out," England said, in a defeated tone. Father Krieger looked alarmed, but then smiled with an almost sinister undertone. "Well, I believe in forgiveness. I want you guys to be able to turn your life around like I turned mine around. Jesus was killed by Roman police. The police aren't always right. I have a plan to break you two lovebirds out of here. It is my Christian duty. My plan involves a guy who you guys don't know. He's the leader of the Machete Boys cartel. He'll help you guys leave the country once I get you outside the gates." England and I gazed into each other's eyes with a determined look. We both agreed to go along with Father Krieger's plan. October 15th, 2017. Father Krieger pulled me and England into the chapel to discuss his plan. He told the prison that his boxes of candles and communion wafers came cracked up and damaged, and he's exchanging them for new ones that aren't broken. They gave security clearance for a van to come, only it's not going to be a real delivery guy. It's going to be Tito, leader of the Machete Boys cartel, driving the van. We are going to be inside of the boxes. It seems like a perfect plan. I'm ready to go to Mexico with England and drink tequila. England can have the worm in the bottle. I want England's worm. We are both nervous. If we fail, we may lose each other forever. If we succeed, we'll have it all together. We will know mañana if we go to Mexico. I'm practicing my Spanish a little today. But mostly me and England are just embracing each other and living today as if it were our last, because it just might be. October 16th, 2017. It was now or never. Showtime. We both sat in the boxes and waited for Tito. We hear Father Krieger in a raspy voice say, "Over here." "I'll grab one, you grab one." I felt the handjack slide under the box and roll me out the doors. My heart raced as I heard walkie chatter, and heavy footsteps approached. "You guys are cleared," said the figure I heard looming by. I then felt myself being lifted by Tito and Father Krieger into the van, and then I heard the thump of England's box being lowered in. We really did it. The doors shut. Tito stepped on the gas lightly. I could hear the rattling of the main gate being opened. Off we went. A weight had been lifted off my chest. Less than an hour later, the van stopped, and we finally had arrived at our destination. Me and England held each other in a warm embrace immediately after getting out of our boxes. Tito exited the van, his black ponytail whipping through the wind. With a devious grin on his face, he said with a chalky tone, "Hello, my homosexual colleagues. I am Tito El Wambino, leader of the grassroots Mexico City-based organization that brings all the goodies into Lum City, as well as throughout Lum County, and everywhere that pays." A big old black man then emerged from the trap house. Tito excitedly gestured for him to come to us. He then said to England and I, "This is the physician, my uncle, my stepfather, and my role model. He runs my meth lab. You both will be assisting him for the next couple days. When the three of you have made enough meth to ship, we will begin our voyage to Mexico." Father Krieger then got on his knees and asked Tito, "Do I get my payment, Daddy?" Tito then pulled a meth rock from his pocket and handed it to Father Krieger. "Good boy," Tito's voice boomed towards Krieger. The physician then looked at England and I and politely remarked, "I can use all the help around the lab I can get, both here and in Mexico City." I then heard tires screech. It seemed to startle everybody. An orange Honda Civic quickly turned the corner and started speeding towards us. Gunshots rang in the air like loud bells summoning the Grim Reaper Father Death himself. Bullets flew through the air like angry hornets. The physician was the first one hit. He looked as if ketchup packets exploded all over his body. "Ouch, my head!" Father Krieger yelled as a bullet pierced the other side of his head. My heart sank and my world crumbled as the third and final man was shot. It was my husband, England. "No!" I cried as England fell to the ground and the orange Honda Civic sped off. I held the dying England huddle in my arms. "Don't you die on me!" I shouted. "It's a third teardrop," England said with a slight smile in his raspy, shaky, dying voice. With tears running down my face, I kissed him goodbye. My husband died in my arms. Father Krieger approached me and put his hand on my shoulder. He then whispered into my ear, "You know, it is death do us part, and I could really use some help stopping the bleeding. I somberly nodded my head and unzipped my pants as Krieger got on his knees, and I fucked him in the bullet hole. I had a sad boner, and I was letting out all my white, gooey frustrations and sadness into his head. His eyes crossed as I began to stir his brain like scrambled eggs with each stroke of my rock-hard cock. As his eyes crossed and he moaned with delight, Krieger yelled, "These back shots hurt even more than the gunshots did, but it hurts so good." I smiled and looked down at him, saying pleasantly with a sigh, "Looks like I'm not the last huddle anymore." Tito, who was holding his dead uncle-stepfather angrily, threw the body down and marched towards us. "I'm sad too, damn it," he yelled as he jammed his hard cock directly into Krieger's previously healed bullet hole on the other side of his head. I could hear Tito's rock-hard cock tear through the scar tissue. It sounded like a mayonnaise packet being popped. Krieger moaned with delight as we played tug-of-war with his head as we mind-fucked him. October 17th, 2017. I awoke this morning on a mattress that lay upon the floor of the trap house. Tito was in the bed with me, still soundly asleep. Between the two of us was Father Krieger's head, sandwiched between us. Our morning wood protruded from his skull like bunny ears. Wow, we had such a crazy night. I can't believe England is gone. Tito awoke very suddenly. He jarred me with how he immediately went from being sound asleep to having his eyes wide open and alert, staring at me menacingly. His voice boomed, "We will find the man who killed the physician and your husband. Get up. Faggot Freddy, we got work to do." I darted up and stood at attention. "We got to hit the streets and start asking people if they know who was driving that orange Honda Civic," Tito announced to Krieger and I. We began our walk through Lum City. I saw a familiar face in front of a building in the plaza across the street. The sign on the building read, "Lum." Faraway figure looked familiar. I started walking toward him. I saw a bucket of KFC in his hand as he turned around. "Fucking Cletus!" I shouted. "Pooh, pooh, pooh, please don't tell my parole officer," Cletus pleaded with an alarmed and bewildered expression. Tito followed, looked Cletus up and down, and then yelled at him, "What do you know about the orange Honda?" Cletus let out a startled yelp and dropped his chicken. I don't know nothin', sir," Cletus said sheepishly. "Talk, boy, I got your parole officer on speed dial," Tito exclaimed hastily with a snarl on his face. I don't know nothin'. But Angus might. He always keeps his ear to the streets." "Take us to him, please, my child," Father Krieger said to Cletus. The three of us followed him as he walked about a block. "Ah!" yelled a drunken Scottish man stumbling out of what appeared to be a trap house with a bent coat hanger in one hand and a can of malt liquor in the other. "Angus!" shouted Cletus. "Ah!" the drunk Scottish man replied. Cletus then said casually, "Yeah, that there is Angus McClout. He runs the coat hanger abortion clinic up yonder." With his eyebrow raised and hair all messy, he stumbled toward us, leaned in and asked, "What can I do for ye, lads?" Tito beamed at him intensely and fired back in a snappy tone, "I'm looking for the driver of an orange Honda Civic. He killed my stepfather/uncle who was running my lab. I believe the hit was targeting him to eliminate our industry." Angus, looking clueless and wise at the same time somehow, stumbled backward slightly, his eyebrow raising even higher as if pondering, then replied, "Seems like the kind of car that a pimp would drive. In my line of work, a lot of my customers get dropped off and paid for by pimps. I'm unsure of exactly who drives an automobile of that variety, but ye can be sure. Oldie Angus will keep his peepers open. For a price, of course." Tito, who looked very angry at the thought of a price, shouted, "What the fuck is the price?" "Relax, laddie," Angus said with a grin. If you can't make your rocks, I got another drug that practically sells itself. Help me spread it around Lum City, make us both fucking rich, and I'll probably find that bloody bastard in no time. Tito looked a little more relaxed. He then dusted his shirt, which only had the 2 top buttons done. He then reached his hand out as if to shake Mr. Angus McClout's hand, but then swiftly retracted his hand. I want to see the drug, Tito said begrudgingly. Cletus looked at Angus and gave a nod. Come up to me clinic upstairs. Tito, Krieger, and I followed Angus and Cletus upstairs to the coat hanger abortion clinic. What I saw can pretty much be summed up in hookers, crackheads, and illegal immigrants in a waiting room that smelled like a turtle tank with a slight haze of Newport smoke. That filled the room. The mold on the yellowed ceiling tiles looked like pieces of black gum sprinkled across a city sidewalk. The brown lid paint on the jagged wooden floor was even more chipped and shattered than the dignity of the women I saw in the waiting room. I'll be back, ladies. Don't worry, said Angus in an almost sinister tone. We all went to a room behind the waiting room. The room was decorated with shitty Rick and Morty posters that definitely came from a sketchy Indian smoke shop. There was a mini fridge. Cletus opened the fridge and showed the contents. It was all jars of what appeared to be milk. Angus stood proudly next to Cletus and boisterously announced, Cletus and I were getting high on acid and tag-teaming fat, pregnant bitches in my clinic, like the couple of mad lads we are, and accidentally discovered something amazing. When the fat fluke, and the results were in. This was no bloody fluke. We invented a new drug, lads. LSD acid-laced titty milk. Cletus has a couple blokes from the crackhead juggalo syndicate supplying us with the LSD acid, and I got plenty-bearing lasses. So, here, try it, mate. Tito looked puzzled as he looked into the small white jar of milk. He downed the whole jar in one gulp, as if it were a shot. It definitely wasn't a shot. He looked pleased with himself as he licked away his milk mustache. Whoa, Tito grumbled to himself as his eyes batted around the room, similar to how a cat looks at a laser pointer, like he was following some sporadic visual stimuli. Tito then realigned his eyes and focused on Cletus. He then looked approvingly at Angus. "Mommy Milky!" he shouted, in a voice that boomed with passion. "We will traffic this chug-jug of wonder. We will be your milkmen, Mr. McClout," Tito said enthusiastically. October 18th, 2017. We attended the free church breakfast for homeless people today to push our product. We wore trench coats with bottles of milk to sell. Cletus had KFC in his trench coat. I don't think he really understood the purpose of us being there. The rest of us were selling bottles to junkies left and right. Cletus just kept annoying us. The security guard that looked like Don Knotts almost kicked him out. "You better knock it off, bucko. You're wigging me out, dude," he said in a no-nonsense tone. It was actually a great diversion. Tito seemed a little loopy and had the smell of warm titty milk on his breath. I think he's getting high on his own supply. We killed it in sales today nonetheless. To celebrate, I took Father Krieger, or should I say Daddy Krieger, to the janitor's closet and fucked his bullet hole again. I didn't even try to seduce him and be romantic. I just grabbed him by the arm harshly and threw him in there. He licked his lips and pulled on his white collar as I unbuttoned my pants. I grabbed his head excitedly, like a grocery store cantaloupe on Black Friday. My nut oozed from his eyes like he was crying my creamy goodness. He definitely had a seizure halfway through. He moaned with pleasure until he started convulsing and foaming from the mouth. He twitched like a bug that had just hit a windshield. When he was done seizing, he tickled my butthole. His finger felt like he was playing itsy-bitsy spider on my manhole. It was real good. As I orgasmed and came once more, a wave of pleasure washed over me. October 19th, 2017. We attended the free church breakfast for the second time to make more sales. Tito is really starting to lose it. He was not concentrating on making sales. He just stumbled around the big room and knocked into a couple things, then started telling the bums that he's a prophet of the Lord and saying spiritual nonsense. They all bought it, though. They started buying it. Father Krieger started backing Tito's delusions. Father Krieger claimed to be a disciple of Tito and told the bums, "Drinking this crackhead juggalo LSD acid-laced titty milk will open your mind to speak to God, and you can become a disciple of Tito Christ just by drinking this titty milk." They actually believed them. They started a little cult. Very strange. Instead of drinking the Kool-Aid, it's drinking the titty milk. October 20th, 2017. I slept in a little at the crack house today, or should I say, crack home. Krieger and I lay spooning on the mattress on the living room floor, my morning wood nestled in his butt crack warmly. I heard a faint sound of distress that sounded as if it was emanating from the backyard. I ignored it initially, but as the distressed and quite retarded groaning continued, I reluctantly rose from my love nest. I slipped on my slides and I walked outside to the yard, which mostly lacked grass. The light brown, damp dirt, littered with small pieces of crumbling brick and glass bottles. I walked to the wooden shed, which had thin layers of flashing metal screwed onto it, covering the outside. I opened the loud creaking door. To my utter shock, I seen Angus tied up in a wooden chair. His eyes kept moving sporadically as he swayed back and forth, cooing and babbling. He looked very beat up. There was blood dripping from his head. Tito was standing above him with a look of anger in his face. "I know you killed the physician. Confess," Tito into Angus's mouth, force-feeding him the titty milk. While Angus was choking on the titty milk and crying, Tito picked up a metal pipe and hit Angus on the head with it. I then asked Tito, "Who is your lady friend? And why are the two of you forcing and torturing him in this shed?" Tito then wiped the milk mustache off his face in a menacing way. He looked at me with a crazy and angry look in his eyes and said to me, "I have been drinking the acid-laced titty milk all day, every day. I've been having divine visions from God. God sent Shakira to tell me that Angus is the one who called the hit. I see Shakira in my room every night, and she tells me I'm a good boy. I brought my homegirl and get a confession from him. I think Tito has lost his mind. Shakira is a famous singer and definitely is not in Tito's room." Angus let out a shrill and retarded-sounding cry. Tito furiously yelled, "Shakira!" and pressed play on a small radio that lay on the shelf behind him. My Hips Don't Lie by Shakira started playing. "I'm done being nice," Tito shouted as he picked up Angus, who was still tied up like a sushi roll. "Agaw!" Angus shouted, with a confused and sad look on his face. Tito then began pounding Angus's anus. Angus was crying, and looked like he had no clue why his anus was being punished so harshly. His already battered head thumped against the wall with every angry thrust of Tito's rage boner. I think I should stay out of it. Angus now had blood coming from his molested hiney hole. Despite the fact that he had passed out and was now lifeless like a tied-up rag doll, Tito continued to plow his ass while shouting, "Shakira told me you did it." I closed the door to the shed and walked away. I'm not touching that situation with a 10-foot pole. October 21st, 2017. I awoke this morning, cuddling my second husband, Krieger, on the floor of our crack home, as per usual. I decided to walk to Angus's coat hanger abortion clinic to see if Angus is there, so I can ask him if he is okay, and if Cletus is hanging out there, like he usually is, I can ask if he knows what is going on. I made the short commute to the clinic. Krieger quietly followed me like a lapdog. As soon as I opened the foyer door, I began to hear the same retarded moans and yelling as I did yesterday. A wave of despair washed over me. I slowly walked up the stairs, hearing Angus's retarded cries and Tito yelling about Shakira the whole way up. I walked through the waiting room. The familiar scent of mold filled the room, as usual. The crackheads and illegal immigrants, as usual, who all heard the commotion and all looked scared and shocked. Their eyes all fixed on me as I moped into the back office reluctantly. I was first greeted by Cletus, who was sitting in a lawn chair with a big bucket of popcorn. "What in the Sam hello is going on here?" I asked him. "I'm watching the show," Cletus said with a big smile and a chipper expression, shoving popcorn into his mouth. Angus was battered, dazed, and had a blonde wig on him. My Hips Don't Lie by Shakira was playing on the radio at the desk, and Tito was balls deep in that manhole. "Shakira, I love you," Tito shouted as he stirred his cock into Angus's butthole rapidly and passionately, as if he had no intention of stopping ever. "I love you, Shakira," Tito moaned, his mouth drooling as the words came out. I then heard running and screaming coming from the waiting room. Before I could even walk to the door, it was kicked open. A man in tactical gear holding an AR-15 shouted, "U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement. Get on the ground and put your hands where I can see them." Fuck. This was an ICE raid. Cletus yelped and dropped his big bucket of popcorn in panic. The two of us got onto the ground with our hands up as more agents entered the room. Tito, who was unfazed by this, continued his sexcapade. "You'll have to pry me out of this anus. I'm not done yet." Two agents pried Tito from the battered and barely conscious Angus's behind, pinned him onto the ground, and cuffed him. They loaded our little crew that was in the office into the back of what looked like a SWAT team van. As we were being loaded into the vehicle, I seen a familiar face. Krieger came running towards us. "Don't take my husband," Krieger yelled. An ICE agent then shot him in the head, and he fell onto the ground. We were taken to Lum County Prison. Dang it. Dang it. Dang it. I'm going back. And to make matters worse, my second husband was just shot in the head by ICE. Fuck my life. October 22nd, 2017. I awoke in a central booking cell this morning. I'm glad they put my journal into my medical file. Even though I've lost so much, at least they can't take this from me. I'm in the cell with Tito, Cletus, and Angus. Cletus was flirting that got him caught up last time. Some things never change. I see that he is in the hospital in critical condition, but is still alive. Thank God, Krieger really does have it good with the man upstairs. Tito is coming down, I think. Time away from the titty milk seems to be doing him some good. He seems less crazy. Angus, on the other hand, he seems a little off. He keeps rocking back and forth. "Are you okay, Angus?" I asked him. His response sent cold chills down my spine. "I am Arabian Damien," he shouted. "Oh no," Tito said to Angus. "Stop talking in gibberish and making up dumb names, or I am going to fuck you in the mouth." I'm terrified. I'm staying out of it. Angus then said, "Try and see what happens, Habibi. Arabian Damien doesn't take shit from an infidel like you." Tito then unzipped his pants and began fucking Angus in the mouth. I heard a loud pop. It sounded like Tito had broken his jaw. Just when I thought Angus was stuck, having his mouth fucked, Tito let out a yelp and fell to the ground. Blood ran down the chin and neck of Angus. Tito's cock was still in his mouth. Tito turned paper white as he started to die from blood loss. He was completely unconscious. Cletus tried to stop the bleeding. Angus said to Cletus with an Arabian accent, "I'm going to shove this severed cock down your throat and choke you with it if you keep attempting to save this man's life, Habibi. I don't care." "I'm saving my friend," said Cletus, thinking the possessed Angus was bluffing. Sure enough, I watched Cletus suffocate and die on the ground, with a severed dick in his throat. I'm so scared, I said to Angus. I know who you are, Arabian Damien. Please don't kill me. I'll stay out of your way. He then said sheepishly, I'll think about sparing your life. I'll ponder. I hope he doesn't kill me. If he does, at least I will be united with England.
The journal closes. Well, looks like he didn't make it. Angus pondered. All right, said Agent Haynes. Let's have ourselves a lunch break, said Agent Huey. Agent Haynes nodded his head and then turned on the TV. Breaking news. The monkey stolen from the zoo by the infamous shooter, England Huddle, has been found in Lum City in an orange Honda Civic that ran out of gas in the middle of the road. It is uncertain who was driving it, as there are no witnesses who saw. The vehicle is full of unlicensed firearms and spent ammo casings. Anyone with information on this incident is urged to call their local police department or call Crime Stoppers. Agent Baron Haynes and Agent Huey Hampton then both froze, stunned at what they had heard on the TV. Agent Haynes then said, Come on, Yuri. Let's drive to that zoo right away. We have monkey business to tend to, while putting on his cop shades like a cool guy.